Right, we've got another Age of Empires 4 game for you here. It's going to be myself playing as the English, my opponent playing as the Delhi Sultanate. My opponent's name is Voidable Mage 735. The map is Black Forest, very turtly map, only a few narrow passageways to the enemy's base. Now this is a game post-patch. Few changes took place. Fishing is now not as profitable as it once was. So the gather rate for fish have been reduced. Also, the overall just amount of food per fish spot is lowered. So there's a little bit less of an incentive to go for food out in the water. And Delhi received a decent buff. They can now gather faster from berry bushes. English, for the most part, unchanged. I suspect I'm going to be seeing a lot more Delhi opponents in the future because of the recent buffs they've received. Additionally, another change that the patch provided was siege units are much, much slower. So it's a lot harder to reposition mangonels, springalds. Siege units are they're slow as turtles. They barely move at all, and it's a welcome change. Siege units used to be much too quick. They simply zoomed around the map, and it was very difficult to chase them down with units. You couldn't really catch them with even cavalry. So they've been made slower, and you can also deal more damage to siege units using cavalry. So not only are they slower, but cavalry units are particularly well suited to destroying siege units. When I'm playing as the English versus Delhi, I'm always worried that they are going to blind counter my longbowmen. So I should suspect that my opponent is going to send out horsemen versus my longbowmen. They will build a stables, toss a scholar inside of the barracks, and begin pumping horsemen out at an incredible speed. Seen some movement from my opponent here. The Delhi love to send out these early spearmen or just single units to put down walls on the map. I'm going to try to prevent that using my longbowmen and my scouts. If I can continually harass his units, then no walls for him. And walls are very strong on this map. Putting down just a handful of walls in these choke points will give you a big advantage. It'll secure a lot of territory for you. Trying to put a stop to these spearmen. The longbowmen are well suited to taking them out. But I need to target them down with my archers. Unfortunately, they keep kind of bobbling around here, so it was hard to focus fire them down before they could get these walls down. That said, I like getting these free kills. That's pretty nice. I haven't seen any horsemen. Notice that those were all spearmen. So perhaps my opponent didn't go for the blind counter route and isn't just going to be spamming horsemen at me. So I'll happily take these free kills. He's sending more and more. He's definitely pumping them from a barracks that has lots of that has a scholar garrison in it. Now I make the decision here to keep up the pressure, and I decide to make a stables. I'm not really sure if this was the right move, and oof, I get house blocked right here. That's unfortunate. You could see he's making a stables as well. That's when I'm like, maybe I should have gone barracks and gotten spearmen over here. I'm scouting around with my longbowman. I see that he puts down an outpost, so he's ready to defend himself. And I saw the stables as well, so I'd like to reposition my longbowman to try and find areas where he's gathering. I'm looking at these berries, but he's not getting anything. And I mean, the real issue is he's got some sheep that he can still harvest from, and he likely has a huge fishing fleet, just like I do, gathering up food. So it's surprisingly hard to do some early harassment here. What I really need to find and focus on is his wood, which is right here. But sadly, I can't do too much to it. Seeing lots of horsemen coming out now. He's, again, shifted the scholar into the stables. So now he's hoping to use all of these horsemen to deal with my units. Put down palings just in case he decides to charge in with the horsemen. Kind of go back and forth, trying to lead them into the palings. Really, I need some spearmen out here. On the back of this, I could use a little bit more mining gold. Okay, good. See, there's the 2 barracks, but it's a little too late for the barracks. You can see I'm not getting villager kills. All I'm really getting is some scouting information from his base. And these horsemen are just not too useful because they are they're just going to get hard countered by these spearmen. It's a tough battle here. I don't quite have the unit composition. If maybe my spearman target, or if my longbowman target fired the spearman, we could get something accomplished here. But you can see, yeah, he's bringing in even more reinforcements. And this is the scary part about Delhi. If they feel threatened, they can just pump units as quickly as they can. Over here, okay. Archers firing at, oh, but it's Delhi, so the fishing ships have archers on them. What a ridiculous way to clean up my army. In terms of income, looking like I'm a little ahead in food and wood, but my opponent is ahead in gold, and I really do need to get more of my villagers on gold. Sent one of my scouts to burn down this wall. Looks like it was successful. Let's speed things up a little bit here. So we're both going to be hanging out in our bases for a little bit here. I'm putting down some walls. I want some territory of my own, and I really wanted to hold this relic here. But he sends his horsemen forward. That's a lot of horsemen. Need a decent amount of spearmen to try and counter this. He uses his spearmen to build walls here. I take a few shots with my longbowman. Looks like I'm population blocked again. That was a real problem this game. Going up to the 3rd age, I suspect my opponent has done the same thing. Opponent comes in with all these horsemen. They don't deal too much damage, but the spearmen are particularly scary. Decide to fight at this choke point. It's advantageous for me with my archers and his larger ball of units. Although I really think I shouldn't have come forward like this, because he can easily just get on top of my longbowmen and take them out. Though I am able to fight him a little further back. Looks like he forgets to connect his units, and I take a nice fight against just his horsemen. I have spearmen in here dealing good damage. The man-at-arms are going to do okay against the spearmen. And now I'm bringing in some crossbowmen, which at this point aren't too effective against these units. Really just the longbowman would have been sufficient. Though if my opponent starts to bring in some man-at-arms, then I will definitely want crossbowmen. Start burning through some of his walls. Don't need to really push the issue here. But now I'm fighting his man-at-arms that are just building non-stop walls, and this is so frustrating. The amount of walls that my opponent put down. This is a wall off here. I couldn't quite target that 150 health wall, and so now my army is all rallying through to the south. Find more of his units, but he's going pure horsemen, spearmen, man-at-arms. The counter to that, I would think, is spearmen and mangonels with some crossbows mixed in. Sending my villagers forward to try and build this forward base. The crossbowmen, not too well. I mean, these longbowmen are not effective at all versus these man-at-arms. Also, my opponent is getting decent upgrades. Oof, losing my villagers here because I could not click this little chunk of wall here. It was like blocked by the trees. I was trying to hit this one. You can see it's a very tiny thing to click. And of course, if I burn through this wall, he just lays down another. Down south, I'm still rallying units. He hasn't yet blocked off this passageway, and he's coming forward with a scholar to try and take these relics. I should have these units burning through the next wall, but it's so hard to keep pace with all of the walls that my opponent's putting down. Do have my own monastery, and I'm trying to, take back relics when I see them. Another strategy that I thought about when I saw his large massed melee units is, why don't I just use a monk to discourage them from fighting? Because he has to back away when he sees a monk with a relic. He can't target fire down my monk. I'm target firing down his mangonels. It seemed fairly successful, and I sent a small force that broke through up here to try and cut off his reinforcements. But the really scary part is this giant ball of infantry. They're highly upgraded. It's good that I'm cutting off these reinforcements. That's really great. But now he's bringing in some mangonels. They're sort of getting into the mix. Yeah, he's still producing mangonels back here. Those would be good against small clusters of my forces. And yeah, even though I got this boar up again, I'm going to lose all these villagers because I came too far forward. Really makes me think that there isn't a need for map presence. There really isn't a need to come forward and take these things off the map besides the relics. Coming forward, I mean, it was nice to have the outpost. It could provide the network of castles enhancement, and I definitely need more outposts sort of expanded down these pathways. In terms of income, opponent's ahead in food, I'm ahead in wood, but my opponent is also ahead in gold. With these two strong incomes, my opponent is just going to be producing tons of man-at-arms, some spearmen, and a few mangonels. Glad to see that I'm grabbing up these relics. The knights, I'm not sure if I needed to mix them in. Oh, this poor scholar. He doesn't know what's coming. In terms of my my income, I'd like to see some lumber camps here to make the chopping time a little shorter. I'd definitely like to see me get on this stone earlier. It looks like I've only just started to collect it. A keep would have been incredibly valuable here. Here come his units. It's so much infantry. I really need walls and probably mangonels of my own. I am producing mangonels. Very happy with that. I am getting upgrades, but I believe I'm pretty far behind on upgrades. I've got a decent number of farms. But yeah, in terms of income, my opponent's still ahead in a few of the key resources. Not sure if he's gone up to a second town center. I've certainly got my second one from the King's Palace, but I'm not even producing villagers from it. Need to keep up with my villager production. Oh, it's because my food is so low. I think I need some more farms. Looks like, yeah, I just finished this, or this set recently finished. And we're beginning to run out of fish here. Interesting. What's up with this? The deep water fish wouldn't get harvested by my fishing ships. That's very strange. Wonder if my opponent encountered that as well. In fact, it's pretty late in the game. It's almost towards the end. Let's go ahead and reveal the map. Okay, no, he's able to finish them off, but they stay on the screen? It's so strange. Looks like my opponent has not gone for a second town center. Lumber camp's been moved forward. That's great. Plenty of gold. And the large food income is still mostly from the ships, though it's about to run out, and he'll have to make the transition to farms. So it looks like if I can survive this attack, my opponent will have to move on to some other food sources. I mean, the berry bushes are almost gone. Looks like these deer are almost gone. But the upgrades are looking great for my opponent. He's finishing off the last of his level 2 upgrades. Meanwhile, I'm just getting my first level 2 upgrade. And look at this army. This is going to be extremely difficult to battle in. I'm glad I've got the outpost here. It's going to give me the network of castles upgrade. But my mangonels are a little out of position. And he uses the double time, the forced march, to just flood into my base. I'm coming forward with my spring alds, but they're so slow. That's a good shot. Kills a lot of his units, but he's already on top of my mangonels. They might be able to fire again, but that doesn't do much. At this point, I just did not have the standing army. I needed much more barracks. I needed tons of military production, maybe over here. I needed to be able to just put out a large standing army like he did. So the Delhi opponents are looking very scary nowadays. I'm worried about just mass infantry with decent upgrades. The only way you could really counter it is some very well-placed mangonels and a huge standing army of your own. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. It's a fun game. Hope to get you around for the next one.